I'm live, I think. Hello to all. I hope this is live. I hope I'm doing it right. I hope my audio is okay. Hello to all. My name is Awesome Fabian. This is the Awesome Fabian channel. Granted, I'm kind of new to this, so I guess you can call me a boomer or guy just doesn't really know how to do YouTube videos. Perhaps that. I thank you to if you ever happen to watch this. Thank you very much for enjoying, or we hope you enjoy this channel. And if you would like to subscribe, please do. Anyway, as a guy who watches a lot of movies, there's many people here on YouTube that watch a lot of great movies. I'm also subscribed to them. Many of the horror fans, action movie fans, as me, as you see the posters in the back, and these posters are kind of dusty because I had them in my closet. I'm a big movie fan, and people have always said, my friends have always said, and my coworkers have always said that I know way more bad movies than most people do. And that's being kind of, I guess, understating it because I've seen a lot of more movies than mostly anyone does. And today, I guess, is October, almost going to be the second week of October, and almost about was about another 20 some days plus to Halloween. I decided to review a movie that, of course, YouTube you perhaps can find other people that review the movie too, but a movie that I think doesn't get enough maybe love or maybe just enough attention. Of course, not a great movie. Someone would say, "Oh, great!" I think it's a great fun film, but I think people would say it's compared to the original one. Oh, maybe I should say the movie House of the Dead 2, which I have playing right here of the menu screen. House of the Dead 2 came out in 2005. I guess it came out in international festivals. 2005 came out 2006 when it finally had its full release. And its budget, I know people say its budget's around from $4 to $6 million, but if you look at the film, it looks like I think I don't know if it premiered, but I know later on it came on the Sci-Fi Channel, of course, and stuff. And it looks like a reasonably budget film. I mean, compare that to silent movies, or especially the ones made back around the same time, or even nowadays. I think the film still holds up pretty well. But let's get into more of the House of the Dead and why I think it's very vastly underrated. Oh, maybe I should back up to what this movie channel is. It's not really a movie channel. It's a channel about all things. I don't know if we'll go into other things, but I'm a big movie guy, like I said before. But I also like sports. I like video games and so forth. I'm a guy who likes all kinds of movies. So, I put some movies out here that I have. Like some of my favorites. Of course, this is not the be all end all, but The Cameraman, Buster Keaton, Our Hospitality, released from Kino, of course. Seven Samurais, the DVD one. I have the Blu-ray somewhere, hidden somewhere, and so forth. Of course, I will review those movies, of course, later on. But I decided to, as a guy who likes the lower budget horror movies, particularly ones that maybe people don't talk about or people can just dismiss, as House of the Dead 2. This fantastic fun film. A movie that now I believe it has a 3.75 rating on IMDb, which is kind of amazing. Yeah, 3.5 rating on IMDb, and I guess 22% rating on Rotten Tomato. I guess technically that's from the audience score because there's only like 3 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, and of course they hated the critics, and the audience reviews are not that great. And it's a movie that, it's a movie that you can't really find on, I guess you have to buy it on YouTube, renting on YouTube or Amazon and so forth. It's kind of interesting. But it's a movie that's relatively fast paced, relatively moves at, like I said, decent pace. It's pretty gory. It's 95 minutes long. And I checked out the special features again because I had watched it in a couple of years. And it's always a movie that came out. I remember, like I said before, 2006, they came out. And it came out to, I think it did decent rentals I remember renting things at Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. It did decent rent then. I remember always going to see and see how many were there and so forth. But it did okay. Well, I always ask my friends that work there that it's okay when to renting it out. And they were saying that some of the audience, people that returned the movies, the DVD and so forth, said they find it okay. But as a movie that came, remember, of course, you know the infamous Eula Bowl film of the first one, which I know fans either really hate it or really like it because Uwe Boll has a. I'm kind of a fan of Uwe Boll, not all of his movies. And House of the Dead, I know there's the one and then the kind of comedy cut that he put out later on. I found House of the Dead a lot of fun too, but the second one I found it to be more of a direct kind of like even the producers and the director commentary, well, the producer, writer, and the director commentary admit that's kind of like, I mean, it's obvious it's kind of a spin-off of Aliens kind of movie where they, a bunch of army go in to find out where the zombies are coming from. And I like the setting. It's set in the cottage dorm kind of college university. Again, they move by a fast pace. It's gory. Most of the practical effects, or like I said, all practical effects. There was some explosions from a van blowing up near the end. Of course, no spoiler warning for a movie that it came out. I think, like I said, almost going to be 21 years or 20 years if you go by. Technically, when it came out, almost going to be 21 years, whatever, how long you want to go by. But the special effects still hold it pretty well. Again, most of the effects were, I think, done by what's the name, Ron Hall, the gentleman who did Laid to Rest. The director of Laid to Rest, those very underrated kind of slasher movies and so forth. So yeah, I mean, the most of all the gore effects are really kind of, it took a while to kind of get to it because the beginning sequence has a kind of funny sequence. Oh, another thing that a lot of people kind of either take a qualm with or saying that it's a distraction is there's a lot of humor in it. I mean, coming from the first one, I mean, someone say, well, the humor kind of really hampered or the kind of outrageousness or the kind of stupidity of the first one kind of hurt it. This one goes go directly for tongue in cheek. And the beginning sequence kind of gives it off because it kind of has a bunch of guys that look like in like army uniform. And then they like, and the sergeant says that we're going to go on a route and we're going to see, going to spy on the enemy. But of course, it's a bunch of jocks in their college dorm just kind of pretending, and they all have super soakers instead of guns. So the movie kind of has like a playful attitude towards that. The movie kind of goes right away into some nudity, which I guess if you find that funny and stuff, it has some nudity and it has some gore in the beginning with. And it also has Sid Haig within the first 10 minutes of the movie. Sid Haig is only in the first like 10 minutes of the movie. Again, no spoiler warning. But it's kind of cool to see Sid Haig in the movie for about like 30 minutes to 4 minutes of screen time. And then right from there, it goes into the opening credits. And like I said before, the movie moves at a jaunting, fast pace. Of course, the cast you might know Ed Quinn back then. I don't think he came on Eureka yet. Maybe Eureka was a be around the corner. Eureka was a very fun show on Sci-Fi Network that lasted, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I think he was on there for at least 3 or 4 years of it. And that was a fun show. And he's really good here. He kind of reminded me, we watching the movie yesterday. He kind of had a what do you call Bradley Cooper vibe to him, kind of back the time. And I think Bradley Cooper was still not. Maybe he was around this somewhere on the scene. I think, of course, everyone remember him from Limitless, and of course, I think before that was Wedding Crashers, and of course, he did some other movies around that time. But I think Wedding Crashers is what put him on the map. But he kind of has a vague similarity to Bradley Cooper. But I think he's pretty fun in there. He's charismatic enough as a leading man. Emmanuel Vegel, I'm perhaps messing up her name. I know there's her and with Lex Luthor from Smallville. I think this is a clip on it on his show where he interviews mostly TV stars and I guess some movie stars too. Where he has a clip in it where what's his name? I don't want to mess up his name too, but Lex Luthor, gentleman from Smallville, where he pronounces her name because her last name's kind of unique. Of course, you probably will see her from a lot of direct-to-video movies around that time. She also was in Saw 2. She has an infamous sequence where she gets her hand stuck in the blades and she couldn't get it out. Like one of the best kills in all the Saw movies, or technically, yeah, when she was bleeding out from that. That scene was pretty cool. But she's pretty interesting, as pretty good too. She's very attractive, and she has a kind of strong presence in the movie too. Again, they're the two main leads in the film. Yeah, you have Sticky for Frauds, Finn Jaws. I'm mispronouncing the name. Of course, he would become famously known. I guess he's a rapper too, back in the day, or back in around that time. But also, he'd be known as the guy who would take over Wesley Snipes' character Blade in the TV show, a very short run TV show. He's okay. He's only in the movie, again, spoiler warning, and in the movie for not even half the film, so like that. And the director of the movie is it Hurst? Mike Hurst. Now he's interesting because he doesn't have that many movies under his belt. He did a couple of movies. He did, I think, Room Six, a movie released by Anchor Bay, and also I think written by the producer and writer Mark A. Altman. He also is in the commentary with Mike Hurst on the film and the DVD commentary. And Mike Hurst, like, interesting because he hadn't had that many films under his belt, which he did a movie called New Blood, which I have to admit that's a pretty entertaining film. It's with Carrie-Anne Moss from The Matrix. Is it with I believe it's Marlon Wayans too? No, I have the movie too. It's actually a very kind of underrated thriller. He's the director. Mike Hurst is a British fellow or English fellow, I should say. And yeah, the film's actually a pretty entertaining film. New Blood. Trying to find out here. Trying to look it up exactly. Mike Hurst, but Mike Hurst, I guess, with action fans would know him. Even I was kind of amazed. Like, wait a minute, I know that name before because as anyone knows, or anyone would know, that if you're a big action fan, who's the big main action guys go now, either direct to video or to the theater? People were okay, even though his films have been so forth, maybe not making as much money as it were, unless he's in the Fast and Furious franchise films or the Jumanji films, the new ones. But who else would be? Jason, of course, from War. Which interesting. I have the War poster, which I think is actually perhaps one of Jet Li's worst American movies. But either way, but Jason Statham, of course, he just came out with the movie Working Man, which did okay, but not as much money overall compared to Beekeeper from the year before. But I thought it was entertaining enough. Not a great movie, not a great action movie, I have to say, all the way. I thought it was okay, average enough. And actually, as time has gone by, I saw the opening day at the theater. I thought I actually has kind of gone down here, in my personal opinion, overall of the film. Too much shaky cam, too much, just not enough action as I wanted, but okay for if you only action star really going to the theaters nowadays. But another person that you would know that Mike Hurst is kind of almost attached to is the great Scott Adkins. And the movie that I was like, wait a minute, I know that knowing the name before. Well, Michael Hurst actually was one of the writers of perhaps maybe I would say Scott Adkins' best film. I would say. I mean, some people would say some other ones, his ones that came out, so forth, his other ones. But I would say it's one of his best films, Ninja 2. But also he wrote to Ninja, which is kind of, even I was like, whoa, he did wrote Ninja? I didn't know that. But yeah, he did write Ninja, which is kind of interesting. Trying to see exactly what. Yeah, he wrote Ninja 1, and of course it's based on the movie characters. He has a writing credit or so forth, credits in Ninja 2. But wrote Ninja. So I guess Ninja 1, maybe not for Ninja 2, excuse me. He has a credit on Ninja 2, but yes, but he's the guy that wrote Ninja 1, and I think it's a very entertaining film and one of Scott Adkins' best, most appreciated films as time has gone by. Of course, Ninja 2, I think, is one of his best films, Undisputed 2. Sorry about that, my phone keeps going on. But so Mike Hurst is known for those films, which is awesome. But also, like I said before, he also did Pumpkinhead 4, Blood Feud, which is actually also an entertaining film that's actually underappreciated also too. And let me see, what the last film he did was Transmission, unfortunately. And yeah, he did Darkroom. Again, these films are released by Anchor Bay, released to put on DVD. Anchor Bay did that, Room 6. But Last House of the Dead 2 is one of the films that really kind of put him on the map after he did New Blood. I guess put him on the map, the little short map that he was on. But yeah, House of the Dead 2. Again, it's only 95 minutes. It moves at a fast pace. It has a pricing number of headshots in the movie, which they do actually all with practical effects. And they have a thing too with kind of like a not flash, but they have a thing where even in the commentary they said too, where they shoot someone, the bullet case comes out, and the person just has blood in their mouth and just kind of pull their head back and just spit out the blood, which actually looks pretty good. And then some people have actually said, especially the director commentary, the producer and the writer, said that basically, like some people were wondering if there was like special effects or CGI or a little computer generation effects back then that they did, but there was none, which is kind of cool. And like I said, the body count's pretty good. The movie really hits its good point about 30 minutes in. It's a fast pace up to then, but it gets to 30 minutes in. There's pretty good gore effects. There's even also for action fans, there's a pretty good cast member that if you're, which even interesting because he doesn't really get a lot of. He was only in the movie for about 3 or 4 minutes, but Johnny Nuan, or I'm horrible with names. Johnny Nuan, he's in the movie too, and of course, people will remember him. He's a big action guy. He fought Tony Jaa and the Protector, as it's called here in America, Protector. And it's a big sequence, of course, where Tony Jaa does the famous one take sequence where he goes up the stairway, and he fights the guy at the end. Where he fights him when he ties the bell around his hand, and he starts countering all his kicks and whatever. And I think Johnny Noir is also studying wushu and taekwondo and so forth. And he's also was talking about Scott Adkins. He's in Scott Adkins' podcast, where Art of Action, where he interviews him about his great movie, The Rebel. And he also did another movie, The Clash, back in his native home country, which are very, very awesome, underrated action movies that should get more love, especially The Rebel. The Clash is very good too, but The Rebel is the one that even Dragon Dynasty, Wu Bei Logan, there's a commentary with Johnny Nguyen and also the Veronica, I think NGO, that's her name. I don't want to mispronounce, but I think she also has a commentary with them too. And yeah, but John, he also fought Jet Li in Crater to the Grave. And he's actually in the Crater to the Grave when he fought Jet Li. Sorry, that's Mark Dacakos, Tony the Strong, excuse me. But yeah, he's in the movie too, in Crater to the Grave. A very, very short kind of stunt in this movie, surprising because you think he would have. Even later on, the commentary from the director and the producer, they were saying like, "Oh yeah, he's like one of the best martial artists in America," but we didn't know about him because they have him in there as a medic, but he's in there for like seriously on screen for about 6 minutes, so he gets disposed of real fast without him in throwing any kicks, which is interesting. But yeah, that's pretty funny. Let me see, Johnny. Trying to exactly take Hayes in there. Trying to think anyone else awesome. Let's see, Johnny Young, of course, from The Rebel, The Clash. It's two great movies. Goon, I guess technically for the real name for the and over there in Thai. But mostly he hasn't really been making that many like on-screen appearances. I know even Scott Adkins was like trying to tell him to come back into more of a action star world, because I know he may be getting a little older, but he still has moves enough to try to do stuff in it. But interesting enough, yeah, like I said, The Clash was really one of the big ones. Kids, I should not forget that one, but The Rebel. And yeah, after this, he would be martial law. Oh, Crater to the Grave before. Interesting enough, because he did Crater to the Grave before he was House of the Dead too, which, interesting enough, I don't know why they couldn't use him as a martial arts star, but anyway. Yeah. He's only in there for about 6 minutes. Another interesting fact as action fans is another martial arts star who does throw some punches is Dan Southworth. He's actually in the movie too. And he actually, interesting enough, no spoilers, Ed, but I guess spoilers, him and Johnny Nguyen, again, I'm messing up his name, I apologize, but him and Dan Southworth basically get killed within like a minute of each other. And Dan does some kicks in there, and of course, everyone knows him from, of course, from Broken Path, The Great, or Attack of the great movie with Johnny Young Bosch from the guy who did the Power Rangers. But Broken Path is one of the all-time movies that unfortunately hasn't really had a official 10 print or official release in America because it's a great movie, but they never released it officially. I mean, there's you can feel some YouTube prints here, and I have the Broken Path from England, the DVD. And it's okay, but I want like remaster of it because it's such a great movie. But yeah, Dan does some kicks in here in the movie too, and he's only in there for about again also for about 4 or 5 minutes, so he gets kind of wasted in the movie too, except for throwing a couple kicks. Again, but the movie's really moves at again. I keep saying the movie moves at a fast pace, and when people nowadays want just fun kind of zombie movies, I mean, this is when the zombie movies so, back in this big phase away because right before this, I mean, technically what the zombie genre already was kind of had its renner. Everyone wanted to love the zombie movies. The remake came out in 2004, so these all the zombie movies were really that. Of course, 20 days later, of course, House of the Dead came out and came out 2003, and whatever you want to think about the movie, it was a financial success. Even the producer who was also on the first one, even though he doesn't really love the first one, he has to admit that him and you produced a movie that made a lot of money. And people didn't like it. I guess of it, but critics ripped it a new one, but it made its money. And again, that was one of the calluses of not calluses, the one of the movements of the horror zombie movie genre getting its feet again and moving on. Of course, the Romero movies, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and again, this was before Land of the Dead, so it was actually Land of the Dead came out the same year, so my bad, I apologize. So around the same time, these were all the Dead movies are coming out, and of course after that will be Survival of the Dead, Romero's last zombie film, and so forth. And others remember Diary of the Dead, of course, is one after Land of the Dead. So this is the zombie movies are coming back. Of course, Resident Evil and the Paul Anderson's films, and so forth. But yeah, all the gore effects are pretty good. I mean, there's pretty decent ripping out of flesh and gobs of gore. And like I said before, it's really, really underappreciated. Again, is it a masterpiece? Is it compared to Dawn of the Dead or even Land of the Dead, which I find to be one of Romero's, I would not say underrated because people love that film, but I would say Land of the Dead is really more underappreciated than it. When people, I mean, when it came out, people were like, oh, well, Dawn of the Dead is better, the remake. I guess you can go with that. I do love Dawn of the Dead. People will say that what do you call it? People would say that's way, way, way better than Land of the Dead. I would say it's very good, the remake. Of course, people still love the original Dawn of the Dead. And I love the Dawn of the Dead. One of my all-time favorite movies. But I think the remake is just as good. And of course, if you really ask film geek fans or film fans, they would say that Zack Snyder's, that's his best film. Which, I can see that, but I will still maybe go 300 or Watchmen. It's up to you. Again, the zombie genre was catching on. Of course, there'd be so many kind of direct-to-video movies. Of course, a lot of them would be released by Anchor Bay. And of course, also the producer who wanted to do this one with a budget of $4 to $6 million looks good, but he also wanted to do a third one. And they did kind of do it, but not really. They did Dead and Deader with Dean Cain. And I find that to be fun too. Maybe not as entertaining as this one, but it's fun. It moves at a fast pace. It has an interesting Dean because Dean Cain has a zombie thing, but he's also trying to kind of fight the virus that's going on or the plague that he's going through, so and so forth. Because this one, the ending of this one, spoilers again for a 20-year movie, kind of leaves way to that kind of like the apocalyptic, or it doesn't end. They don't find the cure, and then so forth. And L.A. kind of goes into spiral, or the city kind of goes to spiral. So again, there's a lot more humor than I remember watching it yesterday. I mean, the humor, the joke, especially one character in there that really kind of pushes the gags, I guess you say there, because he's like really pushes the, I guess you would say, good taste. It's very un-PC, but again, it works. The movie is hysterical for what it is. There's some cool sequence at near the end where where of course Ed Quinn and Veronica, Emily, they kind of go on in the football thing. Another character go on the football thing, and they fight. Real fast. It only happens for about a minute. They fight some characters, zombies dressed in the football gear, and it's kind of funny. How they're still roaming around the football field, whatever. But it's a pretty funny sequence there, and it kind of has a couple of new kind of cool. And like I said before, the movie moves at a jaunting pace. I keep saying that because as a movie that gets a 3.7 review on IMDb, and people have said that's horrible, even though you look at the comments, some of the comments, and people specific comments, if you go to the prolific user comments, most of them say it's not that bad. They maybe won't recommend it, but they would say it's either 2 stars or 6 out of 10, or maybe some 7 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. They don't hate the movie. The prolific people that review movies, especially horror movies, as you would know, they don't really hate the film. If you look at also some of the external reviews on IMDb, you find some people that give it 2 stars, 2.5 stars, maybe they don't love it, but they were saying it's not as bad as a movie. Like one of the next movies I want to review is Hills of Ice 2. Of course, that movie that for the first Hills of Ice, which is a great film, this Hills of Ice 2, I think is a vastly fun horror movie that a lot of people would say, well, it's cheap, it's gory, it's stupid, and it's offensive. And that's amazing for me. I mean, for horror movie fans nowadays, where some movie nowadays don't want to be offensive, don't want to be as gory, or unless you're a terrifying movie, unless you're a Saw movie. But even then, whenever we get the next Saw movie, but even some of the horror movies, they don't be as pushing the limit of scores unless you're a Terrifier movie. And even the Final Destination movies, which are the last one just came out, which if you like it, you like it. I thought it was okay. The characters were kind of nothing to worry at home about. The CGI was almost all the gore effects were kind of really obvious, and I thought it was okay. But a movie come back a series after so many years, I thought it could have been better. But as a guy who loves ending zombie dumb horror films, House of the Two is a winner. I mean, the setting is cool, the gore is good, almost all practical effects. From the guy who did Laid to Rest films, the first two movies are really entertaining and really gory, and he's a pretty awesome special effects guy. And the movie just rocked. I mean, as a horror movie nowadays, we need zombie movies, especially good zombie movies. I mean, Walking Dead over, the spin-off shows are keep going, but are they great? That's up to you if you like them. But what zombie movies do we really have out there? They're few and far between. I mean, now let's think about it. What great horror movies have we had in the recent couple? I know there's many horror. I'm also, subscribed to some horror sites, especially specifically that are fans of Romero, which is Alpha Romero, I believe, or maybe I'm mispronouncing his YouTube channel. But he has great things. Their primary channel, of course, dedicated to Romero. Going through that time, what great horror movies? I guess the 20 years later came out that has people either loving it or hating it. There's some people thought it was okay, but as me, I thought it was okay. As a movie for so many years, besides having things flopping around, as if you've seen the movie, you would know what I'm talking about. But the film is okay. Of course, it leaves open for the second one. And that's coming out supposedly in January or February or so forth, coming around the corner. But what zombie movies have we really gotten within the last 5 years that have really been good? Train to Busan, of course, it's a masterpiece. Sadness. I guess you want to go with their zombies or crazy people. That's a good movie. Alive, I think a vastly underrated, underappreciated movie on Netflix. I think is a great film. Doesn't get more love. The Train to Busan sequel, again, I'm on miss the name. The sequel to Train to Busan. I think it's enjoyable, but I think it's far too much CGI. He wanted to look like he wanted to make a Mad Max Fury Road, and it's way too much CGI. But trying to think, what other great horror movies have we have in recent time? Zombie movies, that is, exactly. I mean, there's none of them that hit the theaters. I can remember trying to think. 20 years later, that's about it. None of them have been as big or as awesome as Train to Busan me or Alive, but I'm trying to think of any great horror movies, zombie horror movies that be released to the public, and even some direct to DVD. I mean, you can find some on Tubi. Oh, of course, you can find a lot of them on Tubi, and even then, I'll watch them. I mean, if there's zombie movies, I'm a zombie guy. I'm a slasher movie guy, zombie guy. I'm all movie guy, but if they're good, I'll watch them. So, as a guy who likes zombie movies that are underappreciated, under House of Dead works. You can't find it anywhere, which is interesting enough. You have to, I mean, you can find it renting, or you can just buy the DVD. It has a lot of awesome special features and so forth. So again, House of the Dead 2, vastly underappreciated movie. You might not love it. You might not think it's not the greatest movie ever made, but it's fun, gory. It moves at a 90 minutes before even the credits hit. So it gets in, gets out, and it's pretty fun. Well, thank you so much. This is my first ever video, I guess, technically, live video or video ever for this channel. I hope you will, if you like it or subscribe to it. If not, thank you so much. Well, please do, actually. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and stay awesome, everyone. Thank you.